Context matters. Act 1, 2 bags of rice. All right, so I tried to find 2 bags of the same rice. Just imagine it's exactly the same type of rice. What is the difference between these 2 bags of rice? Any takers? Let's assume it's exactly the same type of rice. It's exactly the same rice, same contents. Right? So on the left, there are no cooking instructions. On the right, you have the cooking instructions. I could replace that bag of rice with a Portuguese one. This is context. In Thailand, you are expected to know how to cook the rice. In the US, you are not. This has no judgment. The reason I'm saying this is because Anglo-Saxon cultures typically are low context cultures. You don't assume things. You have to write it out. You have to be explicit about it, because you go to Thailand and you would have that would be a waste of space. People just know how to do it. Or if they don't, well, then you're me. So once upon a time, I had a full head of hair. You may not believe it, it's true. Was that like, okay. All right, so Act 2. Once upon a time, in my very first jobs, I was working at a factory of semiconductors. We produced RAM chips. And I was hired as an equipment integrations engineer. What does that mean? We buy machines, typically from Taiwan or Japan or Holland, that produce these very specific machines, and we have to make them talk to our systems. I was doing that. So a machine came, and the Japanese technician came. And by the way, these funny costumes, we had to wear them every day. This is probably a 10K room, which means that it's 10,000 particles per square meter, a max. Do you know how many particles you have in an operating room, like a surgical operating room? We're looking at 25 on average, 25,000. So this is cleaner than when you go and get your bowels open. Just food for thought. So anyway, we would put on these things and go down there. These things are super precious. You really cannot mess this stuff up. And there's a Japanese technician. He speaks no English. Imagine that's me. And I speak no Japanese. So we have a translator. Okay, so the translator is there, and the technician presents me with the specification, and I thank him, and I say, okay, well, now I'm going back to my office, and I'm going to code this up. I'm going to try to make this machine talk to our system somehow. There are many different levels of this. Some very involved, in which we had full control of the machine. Some others, we just kind of looked and saw what was happening, and that was it. So I go up, I do a very basic test. Okay, so turn the machine on and get a metric. And it didn't work. I'm like, what? The spec is really clear. I can't get this wrong. All right, again, right. Turn it off, turn it back on, get the metric. Nothing. Okay, so I go back down to the factory floor, do the whole thing, put on the little suit, and I go back in. The technician is still stabilizing the machine, ask for the translator to come over, and I say, it's not working. Look, I turn it on, and I ask for something, and nothing works. The guy looked at me like I was from another planet, naturally, and he turns to the Japanese translator and says a bunch of stuff, which I have no idea. I'm just sitting and waiting. And the translator talks to me and says, okay, so this is a factory floor. What is your expected state? Do you expect this machine to be working all the time? I'm like, yes, we work 24/7, 365. Every second this machine is not working, we're losing a lot of money. Okay, that is your nominal state. When you have an exception is when the machine stops. 0 is your nominal state. The exception is 1. So when I was trying to turn the machine on, I was actually turning it off. Context matters. That's one of the many ways you can see how differently some folk think from others. Act 3, the incident. This is not mine. I'm not claiming credit for it. It's a coworker of ours. But here's how it happened. There's an incident. Let's call it Don, the contractor, comes into Slack, and he's just looking through the incident. And Amy, the CEO, comes in and writes, "What's happening?" And Don, a little bit frazzled, he just got there, and he's a contractor, and it's like, oh, he's a CEO. And he just writes this. I'll let it sit for a second. I want a show of hands of who thought this. Go ahead. Anyone that thought this? Yeah? I want a show of hands of who thought that. Context matters. This particular context matters even more in our organization because we're fully remote. We write a lot, and sometimes we write in a hurry. So interpretations happen. What is my whole point here? I humbly ask you that when you make a change, whatever that change is, it's a PR, it's a change in process, it's whatever, provide a bit of context. I'm putting mine here because I don't have to ask anyone else about it. I typically write like a sentence or a paragraph every time I have a change. Just a bit of context. Don't assume that the person is thinking like you. Don't assume they know what you know. Just a little bit of context will take you so far. And on the flip side, ask for context. If there's something that's coming up that you don't really understand, don't assume that this is because so-and-so, or someone thinks that way, or, oh, it must be X. Just use something like, tell me about, right? Tell me a little bit more. It's not intrusive. So yeah, in the end, it boils down to curiosity, which is the whole point of this thing. So yeah, thank you for your time.